Hi, welcome. My name's Steve Rain. I'm here to give you a review on the Mind Spots Olympiad Entropy event that happened last Sunday. It was played over several hours of play, over 6 hours of play, 7 rounds of play to crown our Entropy World Champion. It's not just the Mind Spots Olympiad, it's the Entropy World Championship event at the MSO 2020. It's all online this year, obviously, due to COVID. And I imagine if you're watching this, you are here to learn some strategy from Entropy. I'll just review how your favourite players did if you do know about it. Don't fear though, I will talk roughly how to play. It is a 2-player abstract game where you're trying to place discs on the board. So basically, at the end of a game, you're going to take it in turns to place discs effectively on the board. One person places discs and one person moves them, and then you score it, and then you switch over. And then the other person will be placing discs and moving them. The person placing discs is chaos. They're trying to create no patterns on the board. They're trying to create disorder. And the person moving the discs is playing order. So you're playing chaos and order. And order, once a disc is placed, you can move any disc, a bit like a chess, a bit like a rook in chess. And you're trying to put it in a position to make palindromes. Now, it was played online this year, so the computer will do the scoring as we're going along, which will make following it a bit easier than it is live. So what we're looking at is for palindromes. So if we just look at this top row, this number at the side said it's worth 8, which means there are palindromes of length 8 in there. What that means is that you can see these 3 spaces here. It goes black, blue, black, which if you read it the other way around also goes black, blue, black. So this is a palindrome of 3. Also on the same row, you've got this palindrome as well. Brown, brown, black, blue, black, brown. And it reads the same both ways around. So this 5, although it's a 5, it contains within it a 3. So in total, this set of 5 discs gets 8 points. Those last 2 discs don't do anything. So we can have a look at potentially row 11 here. If we're counting the middle row, which scores 11, you can see that it goes red, blue, red for 3 points. It also goes red, white, red for 3 points. It also goes, where's the other one? Blue, red, white, red, blue for 5 points. So that's 3 for this, 3 for this, and then 5 for that. So you can see somewhere is really rack up. This bottom row, the 14 comes just from these 5 because you get brown, red, brown for 5. You also get brown, red, brown for 3. Red, brown, red for 3, and brown, red, brown for 3. So the fewer colours your palindromes are made up of, usually the higher they score. So that's how it's going to work. What happened in the event is it was played over several rounds, and each round was VP'd. So you can see in this particular match, I think I was playing Jose Segura, one of the Spanish contingent. This was my round 2 match, and I won by 7 points. What that does is it gets changed into victory points using this scale here. So you can see that 7 points is what I won by, and that gets turned into effectively a score out of 20. I won 15 and a bit to 4.9 and a bit. You can see that if you get a win of 30 or more, that gets you a 20-0 victory, and you can't get any more than 20. So what you're trying to do is, as you're playing the game, you're trying to get your score as order as high as you can, and you're trying to reduce their score as order. So the difference in these scores, my total was 89 if you count up all the rows and columns there, you'll get 89. And that would be my score over the game. So what we're going to look at now is potentially the what was happening in the event. And the event was over 7 rounds, and we're going to join the event in going into round 3. There were 48 players in the event. What I've done is I've got a scan of the top 14 or so, and we're going to follow roughly how they do throughout the event. So you can see after 2 matches, David Jameson, I think David Jameson is the 4 or 5. He's won it 5 times. I think he's won it the last 4 years. So David Jameson is our current world champion. He's got 2 20s. Paul Kolker's got 20 and an almost 20. James Heppell's up there. Martin Hamer's up there. Andres Kuusk still challenging for the Pentamind as we record this video. Myself, I dipped a bit towards the end of the event, but that was my second round match we saw. I won by 15 and a bit to 4 and a bit. So my opponent is below position 14 at some point. But we're going to join it in round 3, and I believe we're going to join David Jameson playing Paul Kolk. So the 2 leaders at the moment. David Jameson did say Paul Kolk was a pretty good player, so it should be a close match, we hope. Paul Kolk, if you have attended the Mind Spots Olympiad but haven't met Paul Kolk, that is Kuno's father. Kuno's also playing the event down there. They're both from Estonia, and David Jameson, I believe he is Welsh. So we're going to join their match in round 3. So what I'm going to do for most of these, for this match specifically, I'll probably play it at the pace it was played and talk through what they're doing, what sort of strategy things they want, anything that I think they've missed, or why they've done certain things over other certain moves, and we'll talk about it as we go. We're going to play this in real time, so we're going to play the match at the pace it was played at. The whole match should take about 45 minutes or so on. We're going to look at 3 matches today. So we're going to look at the standings after round 3, after round 6, and after round 7. So let's join it and we'll take it away. And I think you'll find that David is playing order first. So what happens is Paul places a disc on the board, and then David will move it a bit like a rook in chess. This currently doesn't score, but if you ever get pieces that are two away from each other, so if the brown was one to the right or this brown was one to the left, that will score regardless of what colour goes in the middle. So at some point, David will move either this one space that way, or this one space that way. And you'll see that he'll start to score 3 points. Yeah, you can see there. So he's got 3 points, and what you'll see Paul doing is try to put discs in a place that they're hard to move around the board. So initially, what you're aiming to get, ideally, although the best players won't let this happen, is you're aiming to get a line down the centre, either vertically or horizontally, so that you have 2 halves of the board to play in. The other thing you're trying to do is you stop them trying to connect colours of the same type. So the reason that Paul placed the yellow one here is to stop bringing the brown down to the bottom row. And the reason they placed it here instead of in one of these 3 spaces is because there was a black on this side. It's also hard to get the yellow onto this edge. This green, it's hard to join up with that one, and it's also stopping the yellow going across, and the yellow stopping the brown going down. So you can see they'll play the first few moves at quite a fast pace. You can see they're moving things about it. So they're threatening to get a green to the top. And because Paul drew a green, they couldn't block it. In Entropy, there are 7 colours, and of each colour there are 7 discs. And at the end of the game, all the colours will come out. So towards the end of the game, you'll know exactly what's missing from the bag, and good players will know and be preparing to make the best use of the colours to come out. So I imagine one of these yellows is going to join up this edge here. I'd probably move the I don't think it really matters, but maybe the bottom one, because this one's a bit easy to move later. Yeah, they've moved the bottom one. And they'll be looking to get this yellow on this edge as well. So I imagine that whatever piece Paul picks will probably go in this spot here, as long as it's not yellow. No, they've just stopped it. So this is, I was talking to David about it, this is a negative move for Paul, because what you're not looking to do is place pieces on the edge. You generally want to place pieces in the middle and make their movement around the board harder. The more movement they have, the more threats they can do. So David's threatening to move the green into this gap. We'll see. Yeah, so Paul's drawn a white. So I imagine David will move it to the side. Yeah, so threatening the green in again. And the reason you might put it here is it takes 2 moves to get it out. But the reason not to put it here is it blocks the movement around the board. You can see that Paul drew this green one, so David could add those with threats. I imagine you're probably moving the reds, one of the reds to the edge here, trying to join the edges up. In theory, at some point, you've got a brown to the bottom or a green to the top, and you'd like to be able to do them, but you can see Paul's making it difficult to do that in just one move. You don't really want to put this green to this edge, because then you're starting to make a line down here, so I imagine you'll move the red to the top. You could also threaten the yellow to this spot here, but I think I prefer red to the top, but we'll see what happens. Okay. And what David will avoid doing is making lots of pockets. So pockets of 1 are really good for chaos. That is Paul, the person who's placing discs. Pockets of 1 are really good because they give you a free spot to place awkward discs that your opponent can't move into threatening positions. So so at this point, this is what David doesn't really want. He doesn't want to start creating lots of pockets of 1. So you'll see him try to avoid doing that. At some point, he'll probably bring this yellow down here to stop this being a pocket. But like I say, he's a better player than me. I imagine it'll be yellow down or red up here. And just remember, if this yellow is moved, yes, they move the red up. So so there's an interesting choice here. You could either move red to here to score 2 points, or you can move this red to here to score 3. And the problem with this red to here to score 3 is that you create another pocket. So I wouldn't be surprised if David moves the red across to this spot. This black is stopping the yellow coming down, so the yellow coming down here would have scored 3. Yeah, so David's done what I've suggested. Also, because this column's 3, you can never place a green in this column, because a green in this column will threaten this up here. At some point, David's got the opportunity to move the green here to threaten it. So you've got 2 choices here. You can move the white down to here to threaten the yellow into the gap, or you could just move the yellow out of the way. You can move the yellow to here, or maybe connect this yellow to that yellow, because there's quite a few yellows coming on the board now. What you'd like to do ideally is get the yellow out of this column, because this column is a good column. You putting a red or a green there scores a few points. David's just clearing up the centre, so you want to keep the centre as clear as you can. And you can see already that David's got 2 pockets here, a pocket here and a pocket here. So at some point I can see maybe if David's not got any other move to do, he could potentially just move this yellow down, just to make sure this isn't a pocket of 1. Yeah, so this is a decent move, putting the red one here. You could put it here as well. That would have been another well, actually, no, this is better. It's difficult to get the red on this edge, because to do so you have to move the green into a position you don't really want it to be in. You don't really want the green in this column. You want the green in this column. Because green to here at some point also threatens brown down. So every time David clears one from this column, you'll notice that Paul will probably put one back in there, because at some point there'll be like a double threat here. What I mean by a double threat is if you move the green to this spot, you're threatening a green to the top and a brown to the bottom, and you can't stop both moves with one disc. So now this is an opportunity to move the yellow down. But again, it depends on the place. So again, David's just trying to keep this column clear, just to give a threat of a green to the top. They've also got a brown to the bottom. So this is a good one here. So now David can do, they can split these greens up. The brown can go through the gap, or the green can go to the top. So Paul can actually, and you've got to be careful. So he's drawn a green, so he couldn't stop it. So basically, this is a lot of points. You can see it's already 16 points. So David's on 28 points currently. Paul placed this green one here just to make these browns a bit more difficult to move about. In theory, at some point you could move this green to here to score 3, but you don't really want to do that. You can see that the centre of the board is starting to get a bit more difficult to, what I mean by move things around. So potentially you can move the yellow down here. It's not ridiculous. You can move the yellow down. Or you can move the green across. I think one of those two seems sensible. The third possibility is to move the red out of the way. All right, so he's chosen to do something different. Obviously, David's a much better player than me. He's moved the yellow to this spot, which is threatening this yellow to the bottom. And if that gets blocked, you can move this yellow to this spot. So that's just 2 points for David. So they've got the choice, yeah. So Paul could have stopped that, but what Paul's trying to do now is using this as an opportunity to try and segregate the board into 2 halves. So potentially the next piece will probably go, because it was blue, it couldn't go here or here because it would score David points. So the blue went there. But if they picked the right colour, for example, a black piece would have gone here or here very nicely, and you're just trying to cut the board into 2 halves. You'll notice there's a few blues in the middle of the board. None of them are scoring, but I imagine that at some point you could do a nice little threat to move the blues. So potentially you can move this blue to this spot, and then move the red out of the way to threaten some more blues to join them. But again, this is trying to score things across the centre of the board. Yeah, so David's just going to score 3 points there. He also gives the opportunity to move the browns out, so you can move this brown to here and then split the browns up. The other possibility is you've got blue to this spot for another 3 points. And if you notice, just counting the different number of sections now. So if you watch a very good player playing a weak player, they'll generally only have 1 or 2 sections, but you've got a very good player playing a very good player here. So David's concentrating on trying to score points and keeping his flexibility, and Paul is just trying to stop the flexibility. Yeah, so he's moved the brown across, which gives you the option, basically, when you've got 2 together, if you, on the edge of the board, not so much, but 2 together is pretty good, because at some point you can split them up to get an extra point. But you can also threaten, I don't know if we'll see it at some point today, you can also threaten to get like a 5 in a row as well. All right, so you might split the reds up or split the browns up here. Or you could put, actually this is a decent move, you could put the blue to this spot, which scores you 2 points, and you threaten white down for another 4. Yeah, so there's white to this spot. Only gains David 1 point, but it frees up the board a bit. Having them all in one clump gives you a lot more space to move about. Yeah, so Paul could have stopped it. This only gains David a point because David's going to lose this 3 to gain 4 here. So currently these 2 rows score 7. I imagine David will move the white to here, and this will score nothing, and this will be 8. So it only gains him a point, but it just means that you can see this space. If that white was 1 lower, it would just be a bit easier to move about him. There's kind of like a pocket here and a pocket here. And you'll notice that Paul's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 single spots. If Paul gets a really bad colour, for example, the last green tile's pretty bad. There's also 2 browns to come, and browns potentially can be quite threatening. So you've got the opportunity to put one of the awkward browns in that pocket. Yeah, so David's moved it down, only gains him a point. This looks good, but it only gains him a point because he's lost 3 points to do so. Right, so Paul's got a line down the centre, so there's 2 halves. So you can clearly see that a yellow coming out would be pretty good in this half of the board because all the yellows are there. So David's threatening white to here, and also to give a bit more space in this bit. So Paul probably has to block that. If Paul draws a white or a green, there's not much they can do. A green there has got, yeah. So they've chosen. So in this particular case, you've got to be very careful. Not to always sit there blocking and blocking and blocking. Sometimes you have to let them score some points and just make it more difficult to move about. Also putting a red here, just that scores David 3 instead of another 4. So you'll notice that this, the reason it says 7, this is a palindrome of 3, and it's also 2 2s, so it's a 2 here and a 2 here. So one of the possibilities you can see just to count is you can at the halfway point and later you can roughly guess at you could just move I think you just move the yellow across here. Yeah, you're threatening black here just for another 2 points. So they've blocked that. You could move this brown 1 across, but I'm not sure I think you lose a bit of tempo if you do that. At some point you can split these browns, but basically this is a space there's not a ton amount of good colours there. So this space here, you can't put a yellow because otherwise there gets you 6 points. You can't put a green, definitely. You can't put a brown. You can't put a blue. So this spot actually, there's a lot of colours that are good for David. So this isn't actually that great a spot for Paul necessarily. You've also got a black here and a black here gets you 5, but I don't think. Basically, if David threatens that, so he could just move this. He could move this black across. I imagine if he's going to do it, he'll move this black down. And then Paul has to kind of lose efficiency by blocking the spot. So although these are good dumping grounds for, yeah. So David's threatening that. So Paul's either going to let David score this and block the board, or block this spot. Now I think they're too good. They're both very good players. So I don't think I think if Paul doesn't go here, I don't think it's because he missed it. I think he's probably going to try and block this area up. It's hard to see what piece they've drawn. If you were playing this live, you'd see what piece your opponent's holding in their hand. And if you were playing this live on the internet as well, you'd also see what piece they've got in front of them. So we're kind of reacting a bit to how it's going on. But basically you can see that on the bottom currently this is worth 3, brown, white, brown. And if David manages to get another one here, it will be worth 8 because you'll get the palindrome of 5 as well as the 1 of 3 in the middle. So I think Paul played a brown one here. So he had the opportunity to put it here for 2 points instead of 5. But putting it there would then give David the opportunity to move something else. So black was one of the few colours that was good to put in that spot. You've got to be careful of putting a black here, though, because obviously that would score another 6. So I don't think there's any way for David to force a black. There's only one black left. What a good tip to guesstimate the final score is you count 2 points for every open space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's another 20 points. So we reckon David's probably going to score in the low 80s unless something dramatic happens. That seems like a good estimation from the halfway point onwards to do 2 points per space left at the end. So yellow to this point also means you can go red to here for another 3. And what David will be doing, if they haven't got a great move now, it's just about maximising points, yeah. So you're threatening red down here. Oh, apologies. I think that was a mistake by. Paul potentially, because this now scores David 5. There was a brown to that spot. So what I said earlier, remember when I said there was 2, and if you split it, you make a 3. So when David split these 2 yellows up with a brown on one end of it, a brown to the other end scores you another 5 for 8 points. So red down for 3, so Paul might stop that. Again, we don't know quite what colour he's got. Doesn't really work if he's drawn like a blue or a green. But you'll notice that that's the last brown, so there's no more browns to come. There's still 2 blues, there's still a green, there's still 2 reds, there's still a black, and there's still 2 yellows. Yeah. So David's got the opportunity of red down or white across was his other possibility. This is a better one because yellow to B6 if you play chess, so this will be spot B6. Yeah, and Paul couldn't block it because he drew a yellow, so that was a good threat to do. With 2 yellows left in the bag, yellow to here now scores another 5. And it's all sometimes about timing when the threats are. If there's a lot of one particular colour or 2 particular colours that can't be used to block the threat you've got in the bag, that's the opportunity to do it. So you can see there's 2 blues left, although blues isn't a great colour here. Because there's 2 blues left, in theory you can threaten blues. Blues are pretty safe, so basically if Paul draws a blue, they can put a blue in this top pocket here. Or in this bottom spot here. I think what you'll see David doing, yeah, so maybe Paul should have put it here because David can now do green down, and then a blue in this pocket is now not safe. And the advantage with green to here means that green's not really safe. There's one more green to come as well. So green to here means you can't put a green here because that gives you a full palindrome. So I like green to this spot. I mean, red here doesn't do anything. That's already scoring, that's already scoring, that's already scoring. So you could move, yeah, so these 4 tiles are scoring. You don't want to split these up. And you don't really want to move white up. Yeah, so green to here seems pretty good. Now, whenever the green comes out, it's going to score a lot. Paul's never going to put it here or here. So the green's going to go in one of these 2 spots. I think you move the black down one because in this spot now blue or green scores 3. And remember, there's 2 blues and a green to come. It's played over clocks, so they get, I believe, 12 minutes each per game. This is one game, and then they'll swap over. They'll refresh to 12 minutes, and they'll get another game. So each kind of half a game, half the match will take 24 minutes if they both go to time. And I don't think it happens in any of the games we're probably going to watch because they were all close-ish games. Yes, that doesn't score. That doesn't score anything. That's a safe place to put a red. But what Paul will be doing is counting what's coming out. There's 2 blues One's probably got to go in this pocket here, so the other one can go in one of these two. There's a green, which sort of has to go here, so the green has to go here, which means the two blues, one's up here and one's down here, or both up here. And then the last colour, there is a red. So red's safe down here. So you could put blue, blue, red, green. That would be the aim. And so what David is trying to do is predict that down there. Yeah, so I think if David moves nothing, which generally you won't want to do, it'll go blue, blue, green, red. Apologies, blue, blue, red, green. That was the wrong way around. And you can see the rows and the columns. David's done very well here. I think when David got a bit lucky, I think, when he threatened that Paul drew a green. There were already four. I think there might have been 5 greens on the board at the time he threatened that. So to draw one of the remaining 2 greens was pretty lucky. I also think Paul missed this. I'm not sure if that was a mistake or not. That's 5 points. It's okay to allow them a few 3s here and there, but I think allowing them a 5 when you could have stopped it with the colour you drew is probably a mistake. So I don't think it was a double threat, and I don't think David was threatening something even bigger that Paul was stopping. So I think that was a mistake, and that was unlucky. So yeah, I think you move the yellow down just to make sure that the green will score. In fact, the green's going to score wherever it goes. So the yellow's going down for 76. The green's going to score 3 for 79. And then one of the blues will score 3, so it should be 82. Assuming, yeah, so Paul realises that's the best space for green. There's 2 blues to come out. I don't think there's any benefit moving out, so it should be a score of 82. A blue here for nothing, and a blue here for 3, for a score of 82. So we don't actually see the last placement. I think it flips to the other players go. Yeah. Given the last, so I don't think David's thinking about anything. It's just a blue left. The options are just going to reduce his score. So this reduces his score, and this reduces his score. So I think they're just maybe chatting. We can't see the chat box. But yeah, if you are watching live, please comment along. If you are watching this later, I believe this is going to be released on Friday for the MSO webpage for the commentary there. Yeah, so 82 for David, and we're going to look at the start of the next game. So what you'll be doing, what you'll notice, they'll generally place them in the centre, and the opponent will move them to the edge. And what David is trying to do is trying to create safe places in the centre to not only block the centre but to stop them joining up. This seems to be a good start for David. 5 different colours, pretty good. And because they've got a red in the middle, whatever colour they draw, like a blue. So basically, because Paul will try to get a blue to the right-hand edge, David will be placing it on the hardest place to get it to the right-hand edge. So that's 6 different colours out of 7. So that's a pretty good start. You generally don't want to draw lots of the same colour in a row or in a collective. If you could spread the colours out the whole game, this is why it is a game a bit of luck. Sometimes you're hoping to block them and you draw the wrong colour from the bag. If you're playing this live, you're drawing out the bag. Yeah, so this seems like a pretty good start for David. There's 7 different colours here. And what David told me he'd likes to try and do, he likes to try and get some pieces and diagonal lines. So in this particular case, there are 2 pockets in the centre of the board that make it hard for them to move about. So there's a pocket here, because the white and the yellow are blocking it going to 2 of the 4 directions. And there's a pocket here as well. This one's even better, because you can't move it to the top edge. So I imagine they'll move the white, yeah, threatening green to this side. And you'll notice at the moment, Paul's just scored 2 points, these 2 points there. But at some point, Paul will split these blues up, I imagine. And you'll notice David's going for a centre. So David, because he drew a white, he couldn't really block the green to this edge because the white will join up with this white here. And because he drew a black, he can't fill the gap with the black because the black would go to the right-hand side of the board. So you'll notice that Paul's actually not scored that many points here. And David's halfway to doing a line. Now, Paul won't let this line resolve, I don't think. And you might think green to one of these spots is good, but it makes it much easier for David to start cluttering the board up here. So at some point, maybe you move the green down, or you maybe move the reds to here or here to threaten the red to the top. So if you move the red, yeah, so white's fine because you're threatening white to corner as well. You could move this yellow to here and threaten 4, and I think David would let you take it if you did. So if you do yellow to here, it will get you 2. Yeah, so David's not letting that happen. I like moving the red. Yeah, I think the red or the white. So you can either move the white to the top. He moved the brown down. So he's trying to move the brown down here. And you'll notice that the brown to here will score 3, and then the green to here will score another 5 for 8 points. So I imagine David will block one of those 2 movements now. The danger of waiting, so basically David could just decide to let him move the first one in and try and block the second one. The danger of waiting is you could draw the wrong colour the second time. So that's possibly a mistake, because I think this now gives Paul 8 points. So yellow was a bad colour to put there. I think he was trying to stop the brown going down. There aren't that many good places for yellow apart from on the edge of the board, and David usually doesn't like placing on the edge of the board. So now Paul's threatening the move we spoke about a couple of turns earlier. Paul might be deciding, yeah, fine, I'll let you block the centre if you just give me these an extra 4 points for doing so. So you can see that this scores 8. So it doesn't matter what goes in the middle unless it's a yellow or a green. A yellow or green is even worse for David. This is scoring 8. It scores the 3 here because whatever goes in the middle, that will be 3. And then it will score also the 5 because, again, whatever goes in the middle, this will still be a palindrome. So odd palindromes are easier to score than even ones. Even ones need to be precise, but odd ones anything can go in the middle of an odd one. Right. So apart from this, Paul's not doing it so good. He's got a 3 here, a 3 here, and a 2 here. And then he's got this 8 in the middle. He's also got the opportunity for reds down. I think he's reluctant to do that unless good things happen. So white to here gets another 3. You might think this might be a palindrome of 5, but you'd need a red here. And the advantage from David's point of view of having this means that Paul's. And now you've got to be watching here. Now, if Paul moves the yellow to here, a yellow to here then gets him another palindrome of 5 for 16 points. So if Paul ever gets a yellow to this spot, so this isn't a ridiculous move. It does block you if it doesn't work or if David sees it. But if you split these yellows up at some point and put a yellow in this spot, this will get 16 points. So we'll decide where's. So David's going to move it there. Yeah, so Paul's threatening this. If David doesn't spot it or David draws a yellow, yellow will be pretty bad. And because of the way it's situated, Paul's got 3 shots at this. So basically, David can put something here, Paul can move it. David can block it again, Paul can move it. So Paul's got 3 shots at this. So we'll see what David does. David might just let him have it. Again, in this game, it's not awful to let people have it, but this is 8 points. So either, now this is because I wasn't watching the match, either David missed this, but he might have just, ooh, what? Why would you not do that? It scores you another 5. I mean, you're already scoring 3. Oh, that was a double threat. Oh, it's apologies. My fault. Blue to here also scores 5. So because blue to here or yellow to here scores points, David can't block both of them. So when David blocks one, Paul will take the other one. That's my fault. So you can move brown to the side safely because then you're threatening this and getting the brown out of the way. You can also move black to this spot, which threatens black to here for 5. And the only way to block that is to place one on the edge, and that gives you an advantage. So actually, I quite like black to this spot. It frees up this section, and David has to either let you get 5 or spend their turn putting one on the edge. Yeah, so I quite like black to the top here. And Paul's still got the opportunity. You can see that blue to here or yellow to here will gain Paul points. 5 points in either case. Yeah. So again, and this is a good threat because there's 3 blacks. There's quite a few blacks left in the bag. There's 4 blacks left in the bag. So the odds of David drawing a black to not be able to block this are higher than they normally would be. Like usually it's 1 in 7, but now it's like 4 in something like 4 in 22 or something, which is just a bit higher. Yeah. So I think in that case, David thought about that for a long time. I think he would have seen this, and he's decided to let you score. So sometimes you have to let them score. If you sit there blocking everything, you just can't. You just can't block everything. They'll double threat you a lot of the time, and by blocking everything, you're often placing things on the edge of the board, which gives your opponent more flexibility in the center. Yeah, so yellow's not a great colour because you see all these yellows in the middle. There's not many places you want to do that. So now that Paul's moved this, I imagine they're going to move the yellow down because I think blue up now loses you a point. And the reason Paul hasn't claimed this 5 or this 5 yet is because he can claim either one. But I think maybe when he's got nothing to do, he'll move this yellow down one. So what I was talking earlier about having like a 3 in the centre of the board, that this space and this space, you've got to be careful. There are certain colours you can't place in those spaces. So maybe yellow down, do we think? Or maybe you can move this yellow up. I think I like yellow down, to be honest. Yeah. So you can't put a red here because then this red gets you 5. And you can't put a black here because then this black gets you 5. And you can't put a white here because then this white gets you 5. And I know it's losing you 6, but obviously that's only because this white's scoring at the top. So there's a lot of places. So once you've got like a 3 here, there's not many colours that can go on the end of this. Green's bad because it goes here, so you can't put a green on this end. You can put a green on this end. So you've got to be very careful when you put your first, as chaos, when you put your first one here, because there's quite a few opportunities for your opponent to score. All right, so this is just moving things about a bit. Yeah, so now this space is a bit safer because the other end of it's already been blocked up. You could move white down. Okay, so this is what's called a double threat. You've got green to here for 3 or yellow to here for 3. From Paul's point of view, I think they'd rather David move yellow to here because that creates 2 single pockets. I suppose green to here creates 2 pockets as well. So our estimation when we did 2 points per space, when David won 61, we thought he'd get 81. So 82 is a pretty good representation of what they'll get. If we're going to do something similar for Paul now to see how it works, we'll wait for Paul to move and see what score he's on. So he's on 46. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So 36 onto 46 is 82. So currently this game is pretty close. As guides go, that seems to be a pretty sensible one. We'll see how it pans out. So that's quite a nice move. So basically, that brown cuts the biggest section that the biggest section that Paul had into 3 bits. So this single spot, and this spot of 3, because it was a spot of 6. And then Paul just scored 3 points. You can see this row of 16 is pretty high. Matches, I think David had a row of 16 in the reverse game. Right, so yeah, that's probably the only safe place for a brown. So whether they decided not to put it in one of the many other places because it will score. Yeah, I think nearly everywhere else it would score points, so they've decided to do that. Paul just gets another 3 points, so Paul's making 3-point moves. Again, remember, if it's a 2-point, at the point we counted it, if it was 2 points a move, they would tie. So 3 points a move. If Paul can get 3 points every move, he'll win. You've got the opportunity of brown to this spot for 3. And that's the last yellow. So yellow's at the top of the board, even at the bottom actually. The bottom is scoring a few points. That's the only safe place for yellow, and they would be able to do that because they had a single pocket. And there's still 3 blues to come, and you can see that all the blues that are already on the board are already connected. So there's going to be a few favourable spots for blues, like a blue in this gap or this gap's pretty good for Paul. That's a spot to put a green that doesn't get 3 points if you put in any of these 4. Well, not this one necessarily, but any of the bottom 3, they can just move it to this spot for 3 points. That's 2. That's obviously disastrous for greens. That's 2. So you're looking for a safe space for green. That's a pretty good one. That space is safe, and that space was safe as well. This space is pretty bad for green because it will score 5. So they're threatening yellow to this space. So that move didn't score any points. So yeah, so they can get yellow to here. And the double advantage for this, not only does it score 3, but you've got a whole column with blue, with 3 blues still to come. A whole column with 2 blues in, with 3 blues still to come. Which means a lot of the blues are going to have to go on this left-hand side of the board. Now there are some safe spots for blues at the bottom, but there's still 3 to come. Yeah, so that's pretty good. I like that move. It scores 3, and I think David's got to be careful. So David, literally, if they draw blue, they're very restricted. So what David will be looking to do potentially is put some. So for example, something here means that's now a safe spot for blue in this column. It's not quite actually. Ignore that. Yeah. So if blue ever went here, you could just move this blue up 1 to get 6 points. Okay, so the penultimate green's gone in this gap. Remember, green was pretty bad in quite a lot of these spaces, and that was the other safe space for green. There's 2 reds to come as well, and you've got to be careful. So red here is disastrous. So I like this move as well. So this is like a defensive move. It doesn't score you anything, but basically it takes away the free space. So this space was a good space to put a red or a blue. This is not a good space to put a red or a blue. So you could just move this red across for 2. So that basically just takes up one of the awkward spaces. So what's that threatening? Red down. Yeah, red down. So again, there's this column. There's still 3 blues to come. You can't put a blue here. That would be awful. You can't really put a blue in this gap. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. And a red was pretty bad here or here. Or here. And that's the last red. So red's a safe colour now. There's not, you don't need to really worry about red. There's another green to come. There's another white to come. Yeah, so that's a safe space for white, doesn't score anything. And so David's just, remember it's VP'd, and the VP scale is quite swingy, close to a tie. So if you win by 5 points or so, you actually got quite a large number of VPs, given you need 30 to win 20-0. So you're looking for narrow wins are actually decent. So David's just looking to defend his score of 82. So now he's just, for the remaining 7 placements, he's just trying to put them in places that Paul can't score anything. And there's not many things Paul can move, to be honest. You're looking around this space. That, and that are all scoring at least 3 points. So they can't move anything into this space here. You don't really want to close these blues up unnecessarily, because that reduces your score. But you might do it depending what's to come. This brown scores. So this red doesn't score. You can potentially move the red up. Yeah, because this column, yes, that seems sensible. This column can fit the last green. So the last green will go in this column at some point. And there's another black to come. So you could move the black up one to threaten black to here. But what you might do, you might threaten this. Actually, this black to here is actually pretty good. So this black to here is pretty good. They'd have to block this spot, but then you've got these 3 and these 3 for blues. So I actually quite like black to this spot here. That seems pretty good. You're threatening to get 5 here, and you can see that the score's 82 to 65. 5 points gets you to 70, and then there's a lot of blues to come. So I think I like black up 1 spot. I think it's pretty good. If they draw the wrong colour, because basically they can't really block it with a green either. A green, yeah, so they blocked it with a blue. I mean, they kind of had to put blue there anyway, because blue here, you can't really let, there was 3 blues to come, you can't really have 2 blues in here. But now there's 2 blues still to come. Blue is pretty bad, it's awful. So I think you have to put 1 blue in this column and then maybe 1 blue here. And if you put a blue here, Paul can move this up 1 for another. So blue here scores 3, and then a blue up will score another 2. So it's going to be close. It's 14 points in it, but with 2 blues to come, as well as some other colours. There's what else have we got? We've got a green, 2 blacks. Yeah, so they move this black down so that they can't put blue here. That's quite nice. The blue here will be another 8. So they move the black down, which means they're forcing some of the blues to go here. In fact, you're probably going to be able to force a blue to this spot. So brown up 1 gets you 2. And again, a blue still isn't safe up here. There's 2 blues to come. There is another black to come. Yeah, so I like brown up, and then if they draw the black, yeah, so if they draw the black, they can put it here, and then black up, and then you've got 2 blues in 3 bad spots. And there's a green as well. Now, you've got to be careful with the green. Green scores 3 here. Doesn't really score anything here, so yeah. So black up is actually really good for Paul. So black up scores him 3, and then a green will score anywhere but here. But if you put the green here, then you're putting some blues in 2 of these spots. So yeah, black up's excellent. I think black up's what you'll do. You've also got to be careful at some point of Paul moving this blue one up, because then a blue here scores another 4, but a green here will score all these. Yeah, so this blue up is excellent. Then a blue or a green here scores. I think Paul's going to slightly win this. Because a blue up here means whatever goes here, whether it's a blue or a green, will win the game for. So basically, blue up gets you to 78, and then a blue here. Does it get you 78? You've got 3. You lose 1, but gain 3. Yeah, you gain 2. Yeah, because you also green. Yeah, so a green here will also score this. So green has to go up there, and a blue here gets you. It gets you this 5 back, and 4 from here gets you 9. Have I miscounted this? Is it going to be a tie? Oh no, it doesn't. It gets you 5 here, and 5 here. It gets you 10. So the blue gets you 5, and 5 is 10. Yeah, because you get the blue here will get you a 3 and a 2, and gets you 10. So we can see that Paul's won by 1 point. How close was that? How close, how close. I quite liked the move early on where it was a double threat that I missed initially. I thought it was a single threat that David had missed. It hadn't. It was a double threat, and there was 2 different 5s that Paul could score. And you can see that this row here of 16 is where Paul got the vast majority of his points. So congratulations. I also think David let Paul get this. Whether that was a mistake, I don't think it was. David's a really good player. Because it's on the edge, David might have felt he didn't need to block it or shouldn't block it. So that was potentially blockable as well, the black to here to score 5. But I can't quite remember exactly what score. So going into that match, this is what the standings look like. Paul won by, if we have a look at the VP scale, apologies, trying my best to hit. So Paul won 10.9 to 9.1-ish. Thereabouts. So that was a very slight win, and that gives Paul their 3rd win. So, sorry. That gives Paul their 3rd win. You can see that Paul gets their 3rd win, and going into round 4, Paul, I believe, wasn't at the top of the table because I think one of these 2 guys, whichever one of these 2 guys won. But we're going to move now to the end of round 5, and we're going to see what the table looks like here, having a bit of an analysing it. So Paul won their next game 20-0, and then they had another narrow win against James Heppell, who was leading going into that round. So James Heppell, and because Paul played a very close game against James, David's 20-0 in round 5 took David back to the top. So you can see here that Paul is still undefeated. I'm not sure anyone else is undefeated at this point in time. So we've got our single winner. So can Paul catch up enough in round 6 and round 7 to catch David up? We will see. But going into round 6, we are going to watch a game between 4th place player James Heppell, who has won the Pentamind twice in the past, and he's a pretty good entropy player as James. You can see that he lost narrowly to Paul, just like David did. And James, I believe, in this particular match is paired up against Paco, Paco Garcia de la Banda, my former partner in crime when I was commentating a few years ago. Paco, this is his favourite ever game. I'm sure he'd be delighted to see that he's once more made it onto stream. So Paco is doing pretty well. He's got 4 big wins, 1 heavy loss to, I believe that was to Paul, potentially. Looking at the score, I've rounded a few things up. I've had to do this myself, so I've rounded a few things up. So I can't remember who played who, but it looks like Paco won. It wouldn't have been against Paul, would it? I'm not sure who it would have been against. But Paco, yeah, it probably was against Paul. We'll see. So Paco's doing pretty well. 4 big wins. One of those against myself. Paco played me in round 5 and beat me quite heavily. We're going to join that match between Paco Garcia de la Banda, who has also won the Pentamind in the past many years ago, and James Heppell. Paco, his favourite game, playing James, an all-round lovely guy. So we're going to join that match here. And because things have changed a bit, I need to move things around a bit. So yeah, because of someone's name being too short or too long, or however to resize it. So we're gonna do that. We're going to jump into that and see how they do. Paco would love more than anything to win this event once more. Now, I haven't looked ahead at these matches. I do know the results of the match, but I don't know any of the moves. So I'm playing this live with you. So we'll go into this one. So we'll start. Good luck, James. Good luck, Paco. I do know the result, but let's see how they play this. So if you're playing Entropy for the first time, this seems like a classic opening. Now, David's changed it slightly, but basically what you're doing is if the first 4 colours are different, the person playing Chaos puts them in the centre, and the person playing Order moves them all to the edge. So they'll move the blue to one of the edges, probably the right-hand side edge, I imagine. Yeah. And they can either close the blue up or, more than likely, because they can't actually stop you closing the blue up, there's no piece they can put here to stop you getting a palindrome, it's safe to start moving other things away. If they ever get a piece in the middle, you just close it up. So, for example, if they put a piece here, you move this one down 1. If they put a piece here, you move this one up 1, and you get your 3 points. So this is going to be 3 points. You don't need to claim it yet. Alright, so what's happening here is James is tempting Paco. Paco, from memory, I don't think he'll take it. I think Paco will move either the brown down. Yeah, so he's moving the black up to move hopefully both browns to the left-hand side. But Paco generally won't let these stay here. So whatever James draws, unless it's a black one, I imagine he'll put it in one of these 2 spots. Unless it's black or red, sorry. Yeah, so green, yeah, so putting it here stops Paco moving both browns across. So Paco might move 1 brown across. No, he's not doing that. He's moving the green down. But he's, again, threatening to move both browns across. So depending on what James draws, potentially putting one of these 2 spots, unless it's a black or a red. Yeah, so red can't go there. So red's going to go on the bottom, creating a single pocket. So Paco's going to move this, and he's going to threaten to move the other brown across. Now, James might just let him have it. James might put something here, because this spot here is hard to get to the edge. But James is fighting to stop. You could just move the green down to get 2. Or you can move this green to the corner. I don't like this green to the corner because then this move, yeah, blocks everything. So Paco's gone the edge. This is still a good spot to put things now. I think it's a decent spot to put a red now. Yeah, but they drew a brown, so they couldn't stop this. So Paco's probably going to move the brown to the edge. And at some point, they can move this brown here to get 3 points and threaten the brown into the gap. So James potentially, yeah. So they were stopping Paco moving the brown to here. So this is quite nice. This is quite nice. Black into the gap. That's what you're looking at. So you could just move the white to the bottom, white to the top. Same thing. Red to the bottom. So yeah, so the easiest way to block the black to this spot is to put something here, because then it takes 2 moves to get out. Because you can see when you're just blocking it and blocking it and blocking it here, people are moving them into places that score. So you put a red here, Paco moved it and scored some points. In theory, you could put a green here and Paco can move it and score some points. So if you really want to block it, you put it in the gap. So this yellow, if you really wanted to block this, you put it in the gap. They've got the opportunity potentially of moving the yellow down to go into here. I don't think Paco's in a great position here because I think the centre is getting a bit clogged up. Paco's probably looking for the best move to kind of free things up a bit. Yellow to here is pretty bad actually because James can, wherever James, yeah, so this is bad because I think in theory they can either put something here to stop you joining these yellows up, yeah, or continue to block that. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Paco just move the yellow out of the way instead of, yeah, he's moved the blue. So then when he moves the yellow, yeah, so when he moves the yellow now, he's also got this yellow in the bottom. So James has possibly put one in this gap. Yeah, so James has got his line. So this is the gap James is looking to fill now. James is probably going to let Paco get this yellow to here and try and block these 2 spaces here, I imagine. But again, it's hard to say. So James is just trying to reduce Paco's score. So that's, I like a defensive move. I suppose you're choosing. Yeah, you're basically saying whatever happens, you're not going to get that yellow in the gap. Yeah, so I'm not sure I'm a fan of James's move there. Basically, Paco was threatening it, moved the black down to threaten the black here for 5, and James put a red into place. Well, that gives you what's called a double threat. So red to here gets you 3 reds in a row if you want it. The other possibility is Paco. I mean, it's already scoring 5. If you move the red to here, it scores you 2 more. The other possibility is I wouldn't be surprised to see Paco moving the brown to this space. Yeah, okay, so that's also a double threat. So basically, Paco is threatening brown to here for another 4, and black to here for another 5. So James stopped the highest scoring one, so brown to here scores Paco another 4. Paco's also got this as an opportunity, although you don't have to take it. It only gains you 2 points, and it does block up this column. Paco's managed to free up this column that was starting to get blocked. So I think you can move brown to here, potentially. It scores you 5. Okay. Oh, this is nice, actually, because it increases the score on this row to 6 from 5, and brown to here scores you another 8. So James has to block this brown down. And then, if you want to, you can move the brown to here. Yeah, so James couldn't block that. Paco's going to get another 8. So Paco is back in it, looking much better than he was a few turns ago. And that was just one of those situations where James was pretty unlucky, actually. There's only 2 browns left in the bag. So what you'd like to do, ideally, is get a brown here. But you're realistically not going to be able to do that. So brown to this spot, threatening a brown down. And what you're hoping is when they try to block you, they pull out a brown, so they can't, because this will get you another. I think it's another 8. I think it is. I wonder what Paco's trying to do. He's trying to move the white to these. So you could just move the black to the top. Yeah. Trying to move the white to join these whites. Yeah. So James has blocked it. So the left-hand side of the board is pretty congested, and what that means is that it gives James a lot of opportunities when he draws a colour he doesn't really want on the right-hand side of the board to block it in one of these little pockets. So if I can advise you, if your opponent isn't as skilled as some of the people watching today, if they're not going to go all out their way to get like a cross, this is what you've got here. You've got a line going down and a line going across. Yeah, so Paco's threatening it. He's going to take a gamble, see what James draws. James will probably just place it here, but Paco's got 2 shots at this. So Paco can move this down, and he gets another shot. So if James draws another brown, yeah. So in theory, you can move this green across. That seems sensible. Okay, black across is fine. You're threatening white up here. And it's a bit of a better threat, because with 3 whites in the bag, a white up to this spot is harder to block than a brown down to here was. Yeah, so he drew a white, they couldn't block it, so Paco can go to here to score 5. But what James did do is he blocked the green to this spot. Right, so this brown is sort of dead. There's not many good things to do with it. You could just move, so red down now. Red down for 3. That's my gut reaction anyway. Red down for 3, and at some point you probably want to move this brown into another place. Now, spaces that aren't bad for the brown. If the brown was somewhere like one of these 2 spaces, you're threatening a palindrome of 5 with one of the browns on the edge. Okay, so Paco's choosing not to clog the centre up. Paco could have got 3 points. They're just freeing some space up a bit. And in theory, white to this spot gets another 3. So James couldn't block that. I imagine now, because Paco's did the green the last turn, they'll probably do white this turn. They've already got, so weirdly, actually, they've got quite a nice move here. They can move the white, Paco can move white to b5, which gains 1 point, but it also means this brown's got quite a nice place it can go. You can see this row's already got 2 browns and 2 whites on it. So I think if you move a white to this spot, yeah, and then if James blocks the brown across, you can just move this other white in, and you've just freed up your space. So you can see what Paco's done. This column was the one that was full, and Paco's in a few moves has just moved everything across one in a way that scored him points. So that move of green to the corner actually has turned out quite well. You'll notice that although Paco can move some of the vertical lines, Paco's not going to really touch this horizontal line because this horizontal line score you 8. And given the winning score is in the 80s, so let's assume that the winning score is 84, you've got 14 rows and columns, which means if you score 6 per row and column, that's 84. So any row that scores more than 6 is above average, you're doing pretty well. Any row that's scoring less than 6 could be improved upon. Now, obviously, you won't score 6 in every row. You'll score some more, some less. James is thinking about what they're doing. It's sad that we can see the way the replay function in this software works. If you're playing the game live, you can see what piece your opponent has, and while they're thinking about what to do with it, you can think about what you're doing given the piece they've got. In the replay, that's a bit harder for me, so I apologise if I'm reacting faster than I want. So, yeah, so Paco's got 2 choices. I think that's a better choice. You're also threatening moving this white out of the way. And remember, if you can get like a green or a yellow on the other end of this, you'll score some points. So Paco's threatening the white to this spot. Seems pretty good. And then if that gets blocked, you can just move the whites to that spot. This is a decent... okay, so Paco is threatening blue down, we think. Yeah, so blue down threatens white across or red down. So James can, I'm going to say, waste a turn. Generally, you want when you're playing as chaos, you want to be putting things in ways that block your opponent's movement. Yeah, so James couldn't block this, so I imagine Paco will move blue down, and there's a lot of threats for little 3 points or so. I imagine Paco's next move, if there's no pieces put there, is blue to here, because then red to here will get you 4. The other possibility is white to b6. If you are confused with my terminology, basically A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so yeah, so green to here or blue to here, I guess. I don't like this. I think I would, when the green was put here, I think I would have moved white across first. Yeah, so in theory, yeah, maybe I'd have moved white across first. I don't know. Clearly, Paco beat me quite heavily. It was my biggest loss of the day. Spoiler warning. Right, so how's it looking? So you could just tidy things up a bit. You could do white to here for 2, then green to here for 2. And then you threaten red down, so James has to block it. You're threatening yellow to this spot, I believe. Yeah, I think James has done a very good job at blocking. If we just do an estimation of the score, we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we think Paco's score is going to be around the 70-point mark, maybe low 70s. I think James has done a very good job of restricting Paco's scoring opportunities. So that scores 3. Paco will be looking for 3 points a move if you can get that between now and the end of the game. And I'm sure if you are watching Paco after the fact, I'm sure you can tell me all the things I'm saying wrong. So threatening green to the top. And again, you're looking to see what's coming out. I think, yeah, so you could move. Yeah, so that's good. So you're threatening yellow to this spot now. you're looking. I think there's quite a balance of colours coming out. To be honest, there's one red to come, one yellow to come, one green to come, one black to come. There's the black. One brown to come. I think James has been pretty lucky actually with the tiles he's drawn. So Paco could move this yellow to here to threaten black up. Although that's the last black, I think. Yeah, so you can't really threaten that because it's easy to block. Black across will score, so James is probably going to put one here, depending on what they draw. You could, yeah, so I like that. So basically, black to here threatens a palindrome of 5, yellow down will get you 5. So black to here was a decent move for Paco, so James has pre-blocked that, and James has put the green here, knowing Paco can score 3 points for it. So Paco can just move the green up now for 3. He's thinking about what's coming out. What is the left? There is another yellow, which James can. Oh, James can't put the yellow here. Yeah, so wherever the yellow goes, it's going to score points. If you move the green up, the yellow will score at least 3. So I like green up, to be honest, but Paco's going to take some time. So there's a few pieces left. There's a blue to come. So blue is safe here for James. I'm not sure what Paco can do to increase that. In theory, you can move the brown down. If you know the blue's coming next turn, you can move the brown down, and then the blue will score 2 here. So that gains you 1 point. Not great. But I think green up as well, because it means blue here will also score. So basically, you have to put the blue here to score nothing. What else have we got? We've got 1 blue, 1 yellow, and 1 brown. Well, the brown's probably going up here. So I think it's probably going to go something like blue, brown, yellow. So Paco gets 72, unless he can wangle a few extra points at the end. Yeah, so blue. I think you have to move the white up to stop the yellow scoring. No, the yellow scores 3 either way, doesn't it? Yeah, so yellow scores 3 either way. So what Paco's hoping for is yellow to here if the brown's the last tile. So James, if James has got the yellow, he has to kind of put it here, because otherwise yellow to this spot gets Paco 5. So I think if James has drawn the brown, it goes here, and the yellow, it goes here. Yeah, that's irrelevant. You just you needed to put whatever you drew. Yeah, in that you need to put whatever you drew in that spot, I think. Yeah, and then the last tile is a yellow. I don't think Paco's going to move anything. So Paco's final score should be 72. I think that is a pretty, so basically that what they said in the guide I got was 75 points is good. Anything over 100 is fantastic. So that seems sensible. I would like to say in expert circles, you need to be scoring in the 80s at least to have a decent shot at thinking you can defend it. So I think 72 would be a total, because against Paco, I scored 80 odd. If I can't remember the exact score I got, but against Paco, I scored 80 odd. So I think I would be happy if I was James chasing a score of 72. I think James did a very good job near the start of blocking everything up. And I don't think he missed anything. I think the times that he couldn't block Paco, he was unlucky. He drew the wrong colour. And one of those times, there was only 2 browns left. So James is a fast player, so this might go fast. So I will do my best to try and keep up. So I wonder if you move the green. Yeah, so he's just moving things the other way. At some point, you might move the green to here or the yellow down. Apology. I think green to here might be decent at some point. Yeah, and black to here means a green to here scores quite a lot. So you probably try threaten the green first, and if the green threat wins, then black to here also scores a lot. All right, so I think what you'd be looking for as James, it's you don't really want to move the green to this edge or the blue to one of the top and bottom edges. You probably want to move the blue to here to threaten blue across. I mean, apologies, you move it down one maybe, or green to here to threaten the green across. Okay, so they've done that to maybe just move the yellow out of the way or something like that. Yeah, actually, this is quite nice. Basically, what James is looking to do is to move the yellow out of the way, and then green to here threatens both green to this edge and blue to that edge. Paco will stop that, but if he doesn't, I mean, he can stop that by just placing one above the yellow, I think. But what I think I would do is potentially, depending on what colour he's drawn, you could place one above the green. So, green to here or yellow to top. Oh, that's quite nice. Yeah, you're threatening blue to here. So Paco either has to let you have 5 or spends their turn blocking these 2, and then your centre of the board is better. So Paco is guaranteed to block it. That takes 2 moves to get out. James isn't going to bother. And now James, again, Paco's got to block this one. And James, you'll notice the centre of James's board at this stage in the game is much better. So I was talking to David Jameson about this. Do you bother blocking by placing at the edge? And he says generally no, depending on how many. Obviously, it depends on how many points it's worth. And he says generally no. So that didn't gain Paco. Sorry, that didn't gain James anything. The blue was scoring 3 anyway, but because now it's scoring 3 at the edge of the board, it's pretty good. And we see before that if you've ever got a 3, that your opponent's got to be very careful, especially a 3 in the middle of the board. You've got to be very, very careful about putting one on the edge of it. For example, you can't put a red here because you just bring this red across. Yeah, so Paco's a much better player than myself. I generally wouldn't put the black there. I mean, I don't know why you put the black there. Why wouldn't you put the black somewhere like here? You're stopping it getting to the right-hand side edge. So I understand the brown. The brown is to stop the black coming to here. Yeah, so brown down or black up will get James 3. So they've stopped the black up. I imagine James will move the brown to the bottom. Oh, they're threatening. First of all, they're threatening yellow to here. Yeah, so I think they go yellow to this spot for 4. A move that scores 4 points is pretty good. You generally don't want to block the middle, but this isn't the middle. This is towards the top. So I think yellow to here is good, and you've got to watch it. The blue to the bottom row is still good as well. That's been open for a while now. So blue to the bottom row. Yeah, so I like blue to the bottom here. And then in theory, at some point, you threaten brown to here to go down. And you can see James has got a row here that, again, if ever a red is placed in this row, you plonk it in this gap. Right, so I wonder if James threatens the brown here. I've seen James play this before. He does push his luck. He does threaten these high-scoring things. And Paco, again, what you could have done is you could have put a white here, and then you move out of the way, and then you do it again. And if you continue to do that, you kind of start blocking things up. But you give yourself the chance of an unlucky draw. So that one I don't mind Paco doing, because if you're unlucky here, you lose 8 points. If you got a brown in this spot, it would be 14 instead of 6. So I wonder if you're going to move brown to here next. The other possibility is, once you've moved the brown out of the way, is yellow down, because then red to here scores 5. Yeah, so they're stopping the moving the brown across. They're also stopping the splitting the yellows. So splitting this yellow, what I mean by that is when you've got a 2 and you move it to a 3, that's how I define splitting yellow. It's probably not the correct terminology for it, but splitting the yellows would gain you a point, but it also threatens red across. And so Paco has done it in such a way that James couldn't split the yellows. I imagine whatever's drawn goes here. because again, black to here is pretty good, and you also then get to split the yellows again if you want to. Again, there are some colours you probably don't want to put here. You probably don't want to put a blue there, because blue to here gets 6. And a yellow's looking dangerous. A yellow's pretty bad as well, because if a yellow goes there, you have what's called a double threat. You can move black to here, which threatens 3 blacks or 3 yellows. You could still do this. I think black to here with a white. So if you move black to this spot, you're threatening 3 blacks. Yeah, it's exactly what James has done. Or white up 1 to get 4. So Paco can't block both. They're both worth 4 points. So Paco has to decide if he's drawn a flexible colour, such as a... I don't know what colour's flexible, to be honest. Like if he's drawn a yellow, he puts the yellow here. Actually, yellow down, he has to block one of them. I think in theory you'd like to block this one, because yellow down scores you 5, because it goes white, yellow, something, yellow, white. Yeah, so yellow down scores 5, threatens red across, so you have to block the red, and you've still got the black to do. So I think yellow down is a pretty good move from James. Yeah, yellow down, James has seen it. I think Paco, I don't know how you'd have done it. I don't know what you'd have done, because he drew a white. A white's a really bad colour to block that move, but you could have put the white at the bottom here. Yeah, that's pretty bad. I think Paco was unlucky there to draw exactly a white, because a white doesn't do much here, or it wouldn't have done much here. So James can move. I prefer red in to the gap, because that frees up this side of the board a bit. Apologies, it was Paco's move. I wonder why Paco didn't put the red here. Oh, I guess he's trying to just keep the board segregated. So this is a proposition. So you know when I said you can spend a few turns blocking, this is one of those turns where you have to spend 3 turns blocking. So if you really need to block this move, you have to put something there, they move it out of the way, you have to put something there, they move it out of the way, and then you have to put something there. So you need to draw 3 colours in a row that don't block it. So yeah, white doesn't really block this move, because white would give them 3 anyway. So only this gains 1 more point than putting the white there. But if you put the white there and give them 3 instead of 4, they can then do something more positive elsewhere. So I think James is in a good spot. If we do a bit of a calculation, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 38, 40. So James is looking to score in the mid-80s, I think, at the moment. After this move, he's got 20 spaces left for 40 points, which will give him a score, an estimated score of about 83. Welcome if you're watching live on Twitch. This is a recording for a later date. This is a live recording of the World Championships that happened last weekend. So I'm commentating on a few matches. This is a match, if you're watching, between James Heppell, who's currently in 4th place, and Paco, who just beat me, who's currently in 6th place. So 2 matches to go. We're fighting for some medals. So hi Amy, how you doing? Paco was the guy I commentated with 2 years ago, and James is just an all-round nice guy. Always a pleasure to talk to, and always give me advice on games I'm not very good at. So thanks, James. But yeah, so that didn't score anything. Threatening that. Yeah, so Paco does this a lot more than other players I've seen. They block on the edge a lot more, which means you're less likely to get unlucky, because obviously if they've got a high-scoring spot on the edge, you're less likely to be unlucky, because it takes them 2 turns to move out of the way. So it's once you've blocked, it's blocked. Not always, but If it takes them 2 turns to move something out of the way, you're ahead, because they're wasting 2 moves to do that. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Paco, based on previous performance, if they draw the right colour, to place it here in A5 to stop the blue coming down 1. If the blue does go down 1, then this whole row you can't put a brown in, because a brown to here scores quite a lot. So I imagine James brings the blue down 1 here. Yeah, and now I mean, Paco's too good a player just to casually place a brown here, but at some point James could potentially even move this brown up. There's 3 browns to come in, I don't know how many spaces, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. 3 browns to come in 16 spaces. So normally it's a 1 in 7 chance that something comes out, but now it's about a 1 in 5.5. So in theory, James could move this up, and Paco can't block the brown to here with a brown or a blue. It was a better move before this blue came out, but what I'm talking about is that's just a safe space for blue. And what Paco's done is they've split this section of what was 3 spaces into 2 singles. There's no way James can move this to get the blue to score, because this blue's already scoring, so moving the blue up to kind of make a 3 here doesn't really work. I don't know whether this is a good move or not, I quite like moving the brown up 1 space. The other possibility is James has moved the black. The other possibility is you've also got yellow to here to score a point, to score 3 points, sorry. Yeah, so you could move the white into this gap, because then white down at the top scores you 5. So I don't mind that. I think white to this gap isn't bad. And then Paco has to block this, and then you move yellow up. So I think white to here seems pretty good. You're losing 2 points, but you'll be gaining 3 points. Paco's going to waste a turn placing 1 here. And remember, you've got 2 shots. There's 1 white left, so I don't think depending on what Paco draws. I mean, if they draw like a green or a black, you can't block it. Or yeah, so James could just move white down for 5. That seems the best move available. They could just move yellow up. There's not too many colours that Paco can block this with safely. Like a red is one. The disadvantage in doing this is you've now got 2 singles here. And I think James has had a slight advantage here in that there's still 3 greens to come. And I think at the end of Paco's turn as order, there was a nice even spread of things that James was pulling out of the bag. In this particular case, Paco's got 3 greens to come. So your opportunities here, you could just move the reds to the end to score 2. I think that's better than moving the yellow up. Although the yellow up scores you more points, reds to the end to score you 2 keeps your flexibility. So it depends how James sees it. So James is just going to score the points. I mean, James is just looking to win the match, I think. You need to beat 72. You've got 15 points left to get. I think you'll do it with 3 greens to come. I think it will be very hard for the greens that come out not to score you points. So blue across 1 seems sensible. But I think I prefer red across, actually. I want to advocate red to here, yeah. So there's still 3 greens to come. It's almost a 1 in 3 prospect for the greens. There's how many's left? There's 11 left and 3 greens, so it's roughly just under 1 in 3 for a green to come out. So in theory, James might just be scoring points now. So for example, brown to here scores you 2. Yeah, that's a good space for yellow. You'll notice that Paco's got 3, 4 single dots to place things that hopefully won't score. So for example, a green here doesn't score James anything. A green here doesn't score James anything. James really needs to move things around so that the greens will score, knowing 3 of them are coming out. James has got the 2 points to the brown, but he's created another single gap. So what I think you would do in this situation is you'd move to the red to threaten the red to here. So you'd move the red either up or across. Because there's 3 greens to come, you can't block it very easily. So I probably would have moved it up 1 because you want to keep the column free for greens. I think now a green here is safe. But if Paco's drawn a green, yeah, so green here is safe. So a green here and or here is safe. So I think you can move. Yeah, this isn't great from James, I think. Oh, hang on. Yeah, red up's pretty good, actually. A red to this spot's pretty good because you're threatening green to here for 5. And there's 2 greens left to come. So you try to maximise the chance that a green is good for you. Yeah, so Paco couldn't block that. I actually don't like the place that Paco put the green the previous turn. I prefer Paco should have put the green 1 higher. Otherwise, because this was clearly going to happen. So Paco's put the black there to stop the green down for 2. Now Paco's got James has got 3 points. Is there a way for Paco to deny James 3 points? There's 2 greens left. That scores, that scores, that scores, that scores. So the greens have to go on the top row. There are also 2 browns left. If the greens are going the top row, is there any way to put browns so they don't score? There isn't. So basically, a brown here doesn't score, but a brown or a green in any of these spots will score James points. So there's 2 greens, 2 browns, a white and a blue. 2 greens, 2 browns, a white and 2 yellows. I'm miscounting one of them. Oh, there's only 1 green left. Yeah, miscounting one of them. There's 2 yellows as well. So this is a good spot for quite a lot of spaces, but I think there's just too many spots where James is going to score incidentally 2 or 3 points. James is also going to benefit from the fact there's 2 yellows left. That seems weird. Why has he done that? There'll be a reason for that. I don't like that because I think now here a yellow is now safe where it wasn't before. And there's 2 yellows to come, so I don't like that. Maybe we'll see why that works in a second. Right, the point difference is 1 point. It looks like James is going to win, but it's because it's victory pointed, it's all about how much he wins by. So obviously a 1 point win gets you just a slight win, but a 10 point win gets you quite a lot more. 10 point win wins you 16 and a bit to 3 and a bit. So you're trying to maximize the points you get every time, always. And even if you're going first as an order and you're in the you're in the high 90s, you want to keep going. So it tells me how long the next move is, and I think Paco is thinking for 1.5 minutes on this move. So this is a stage of the game, especially if you've managed your time bank quite well. They played the start of this game very fast, where you sit there and you count. You might as well use your time bank and you count for all the different possibilities. So there's 2 yellows to come, but there are 2 safe spots for the yellow. There is a green to come. There is. If you use these as the safe spots for yellow, there's no really safe spot for the green. So that means James is going to win. There's also 2 browns to come. Yeah, so there's the green. I think realistically you can't put a green here or here. I think you're looking to put the yellows at the top. And there's 2 yellows, 2 browns. So, weirdly, I think I can see what happened last time now. So yellow goes there. A brown is safe here. And then there's another brown. So the other brown's going to score you. You have to put the other brown here because you can't have 3 yellows. Yeah, I don't know why I moved the blue the other way. I don't know why I did this. I don't understand that move. Now a brown will score. Yellow will score here now. So this is the safe spot for yellow. And then if it goes brown, brown. This is pretty good actually, because what will happen now, depending on the order they draw them in, what you don't want to do. Basically, if they draw a yellow now, you put it here, and then you move this yellow across one, and brown scores you. Oh no, it loses you the 5. It loses you this 5. So yellow to here loses you, but gains you. It might gain you enough to make it matter. I wonder if yellow to here. We'll see what they draw. Yeah, so I wonder if yellow to here. I haven't worked it out actually. So yellow to here loses you 9 and gains you 1, 2, 4. I don't think it matters actually. I don't think it matters. I think you should probably leave it, yeah. So there goes the final score. It was 79 to 72. What is a low-scoring game? Paco restricted James to 79, which usually would be pretty good, but I think James restricted Paco to 72, which is even better. Which takes us, so going into that match, the standings were here. James was 4th, Paco is 6th. That win puts James in 2nd place. What was a 7-point win gives you 15 victory points, 15 point and a bit victory points. So Paco drops down to 8th place. Now, with 1 round to go, we estimated at the start a score of around just over 100 would be what's needed for the medals. And the last match features David Jameson playing James Heppell. Paul, I believe, played Elaine Decker. Kuno played Andres Kuusk. Now, Andres lost match 5 narrowly to Paul Kolk. We saw Paul. Paul is still undefeated, but residing in 3rd because some of their victories haven't been by enough. That's the way victory points work. So if it was done by wins, Paul would be in pole position. But victory points means he's in 3rd place. So Paul needs another win, we think, in the last match to guarantee himself a medal, as does David and James. David and James are playing each other. So that is effectively David's playing James, probably for the gold medal match. But if that's tight, then the winner of Paul or Elaine can steal that. But for our final match, we're going to concentrate on Kuno versus Andres. They're both Estonian. Andres needs a top 3 finish to improve his Pentamind standings. Going into this, I believe Andres is something like 3rd or 4th in the Pentamind standings overall. So Andres needs a win here and needs to get about 100, just over 100 points, and needs something like a 7-point win to get a medal and improve their Pentamind standings. If results go excellently well, technically, mathematically, he could still win gold. That's probably unlikely, but we are going to join that match for our final match of this stream. So here we do. Kwa is Kuno, and Fantoons is Andres Kuusk. Fantoons, if you are a bridge aficionado, Fantoons was the name. I'm not sure if you guess that now. Fantoons was the name of an Italian pair regarded as the world's best pair, and then they got caught out for cheating. They were cheaters, so I'm not sure Andres can change that name, but he's a bridge player as well. He's a pretty good bridge player from what I hear. So that is where Fantoons comes from. Kwa, I don't know. It might mean something Estonian, but Fantoons is based on 2 Italian bridge players. So we're going to join this match. The winner of this match possibly makes a medal position. Andres needs a medal position to improve their Pentamind. So we'll see whether they can get that going into this match. Some of the other matches were slightly one-sided, so we're going to focus on this one and see how it goes. So here we go. We're off to the start, off to the races. This is our last match of the stream, so I hope you've enjoyed it. And again, I believe they took 2 minutes to do this, so I think they sat down and we're going to wait 2 minutes. So what I'm going to try and do, I'm going to try and skip this move. Yeah, okay, I can do that. And then here we go. We're back. We're back playing live. That was a 2-minute move. And in this particular case, Kuno is playing order. So Kuno is playing order. Kuno is trying to make patterns. Apologies, that's my fault. Andres is trying to make patterns, and Kuno is trying to stop them. So this is a common start. You're trying to create a column or a row across the middle. And Andres has already got 3 points. I think there's an interesting argument to say whether you, because it was a black one, you had 2 black ones on the edge and you join them up to make 3 points. Whether you join them up so one's in the corner, whether you join them up so on the row. I actually don't mind either way, to be honest. I'm not sure there's a clear edge. It might depend on certain situations, but I imagine you move the blue to the corner here for another 3. You could move the green to this edge. Yeah, that's another possible move. Green to the edge. You're trying to move the other green to the edge, and yeah, they've just stopped it. They've just out and out stopped it. So maybe it's something I'm doing wrong, because I wouldn't make that move. So realistically, yeah, I quite like that actually. Realistically, you can move the green down to the bottom, which was threatening green to here, and if that was blocked, you could have gone green, green. So block, block. And because they put the yellow here the previous turn, putting another piece here is hard to get out of the way now, so that's quite a nice move. So I assume they move the green across now, they do. And at some point probably white to top, so that you can move the white across. You could also move green across to threaten a green to here. I prefer white. I think you want to wait until slightly later on to threaten that. And when I say threaten, basically, if you move the green to here, you're trying to get a green here, which will score you another 3 points. However, it can't be blocked to the black. So you could move green up, and if it gets blocked this way, you just put the green to the side. The other possibility is to move the red to the top, because it's sorry, not the red, the yellow. So we'll see what happens here. Yeah, the threatening green to this space, it's only 3 points. It might look like it's more because of how the thing is have lined up, but because this one doesn't match this one, it's only going to be this 3 here. They couldn't block it because he drew a black one, so they get the green out of the way. What they'll be looking to do is to try and get the black on the top row. So I imagine that Kuno will be trying to block that by placing probably in this spot here if they can. But we'll see. It depends. Again, depends what colour they've got. They decide to do that. You could move the red to the side to threaten the black up. That's not ridiculous. The other possibility is you try and start to move the reds to the top row. Yeah, so you're keeping those 2 there. You're trying to move the red to the top row, or if that gets blocked, you move this red to the bottom and then threaten this red to the bottom. You'd prefer to move it to the top, because what you don't want to do is have a single space here. Apologies, missed that. Missed that. That gets you 5. Now, potentially Kuno could have let that happen because this is blocking the board. Basically, if you can get one here, which isn't easy to do, it takes a couple of turns to start putting enough stuff there that it starts to block it. But if you can put one here, you cut off the top and the bottom half of the board. So from Andres, that just tidies things up again. It doesn't score you any points or threaten anything. It just tidies things up, and you might want to start doing that. Yeah, so I like that because basically white to here scores 6. Yeah, so they still have to block this one potentially. So we'll see what they do. That was an instant move of the blue out of the way. Yeah, so white. You could do white to here. They put a red. Yeah, and then you've got red to here or red to here. I think red to here is better. So Orange is on 29 points. They need a decent win to get themselves a medal, and more importantly from them, they care more about the Pentamind, the overall championships of the events. As of time of filming, they are, I believe, a very close third. They're fighting out for second place, but at the time, they needed a score to improve their ranking. So they needed a decent score. Did they get it? Well, that's what we're here to see. Yeah. So so this is one of those situations where you've got a 3 in the middle of the board, and basically there are certain places there's certain things you can't put on the end. So you can't put a yellow here, you can't put a brown or a red here. So it's not easy to block. There's only certain colours to block. You don't really want to block it with a black either, because obviously it scores you 3. So something like a green, one of the ends would be fine. You can move. Okay, so they move the brown across. So yeah, they're trying to move this yellow out of the way. So what Kuno will be looking to do is block this spot. They definitely couldn't block it with a white. So yellow down, and then what they really want to do is to stop this threat. So they want to probably block this spot or this spot. Because a white to here, if they draw the wrong colour, that could be disastrous, because that could be a huge score. So I think what Kuno will be looking, depending on the colour they've drawn, is to block one of these spaces. Okay, so I wonder if you just chance moving the white across here. There's only one white left, but you can't really block it efficiently with a red. Okay, I'm going to do this first. Yes, so this is actually excellent. So basically, if Kuno doesn't block this column, white to here is a double threat. It's a white to the top or white down. So Kuno is a good player. His dad, Paul, is the undefeated player in the event. So you could move the yellow down to the bottom here. Okay, they've not gone for the double threat. But that was, well, I'll just go over that again if you're not watching. Basically, imagine this, yeah, it's going to be too late now, but imagine the yellow and the green went here. White to this spot threatens 2 different things. You threaten this 5 here with a white, or this, what would be 22 here with a white. It's too late now, but that's quite nice. So you move them, you split the red, and then you threaten the white in the gap. So they block it with the black. You can move the green down potentially. You know, green down, yellow down. You might not want to do that because green down starts blocking this bottom column up. So is there a better move they can make? Not sure there is, to be honest. In terms of scoring points, there isn't really a move that scores points. So you can do blue to here, but that's pretty bad because you start blocking this bit up now too. Blue to here scores you 2. Yeah, that's quite nice. So I think Kuno's doing a good job of trying to block up the border. You've got the horizontal row. You've almost got the vertical column. You want that cross. As cross is what you really want. And basically, if you've got a cross, you've got 4 areas of the cross to place tiles in that you don't want, or counters in that you don't want. So obviously, a green is awful on the right hand side of the board, but it's very good in this top left pocket. And if you're going to block a pocket of 3 like that, you generally want to pick the middle one because then you create 2 singles. And singles are good because if you put a piece there, they can't move it out of the way straight away. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this. They could, if they wanted to, Andres could move a green to this spot for 5. It doesn't actually gain them 5, it only gains them 2 because they're losing this 3 points to get this 5, so they might not do that. And there's a lot of browns left. There's still 4 browns left, so potentially this is a good threat to do. Yeah, so they could just move the brown in this gap. It's probably a bit of a wet move. Yeah, they're going to threaten brown down. Again, there's still 4 browns in the bag. Can they block this move? Well, they can't block it with a black because you get black here. They can't block it with a yellow because that just gives you lots of points. realistically, yeah, so the green, yeah, I think that's sensible. I think you just got to let them have that. And remember, they've still got this threat of a green to b2. It only gains you 2 points. They're going to threaten. Yeah, they're going to threaten this green to b2 then, potentially. They were also threatening yellow down, so green to here gains you 3. If you put the green here, you gains you 5. Well, you might not want to do that because this is your best mobility. But you also were threatening yellow down to this spot because then it would go yellow, something, yellow, something, yellow. And that would gain from 2 points. You can see this column's worth 2. That would have gained 6. So I liked that move. I didn't spot it. I liked it though. You've got to be careful. That was a weird move, actually. I think that might be an error because you've got brown to here for 4. Now, that's not great for Andres. It scores in points. So beyond the point scoring, you now look at this section here. This section was an open section, and now it's 3 singles. And if you look at Kuno's an excellent position now. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 single spaces. So although Andres has got 12 spaces left, so in theory they're going to get about 87, we think. Because a lot of these spaces are single spaces, there's going to be a lot of these spaces that Kuno's able to put things in that don't score Andres points. And not only don't score points, but that he can't move the tile that was placed there to score points because he's got no flexibility. So Andres is doing pretty well. I mean, 87 is a decent score, actually, against someone of Kuno's skill. If 87 is what they get. But they might not get as high as 87 because of how like segregated everything is. There's still 2 browns to come, but you'll think that the left-hand side of the board here, these 2 spaces especially, are good for browns. There's 2 reds to come as well. Reds, again, there's a space here for a red, space here for a red. Now this is a double threat, so brown to here, although you lose the 4 points you had, you're threatening to gain 5 or gain 4 back. So potentially you've got either or. So you probably move the brown down, and then it gives you some mobility here. So it actually didn't increase Andres' score it only increased the score by a point. They're now threatening yellow to here, so Kuno basically has to put, they drew a yellow, so Andres can go here for another 5 points. It's pretty good. 73, looking good for Andres here. There's still a blue to come, so obviously a blue here is pretty good. Oh, and there's also 3 blacks. So what you can't let a black live here. I'm not sure I like that. There's quite a few spaces that a black can't go, so oh, that's awful, isn't it? What were they threatening to do there? That just gives away 6 points. Am I being silly there? Can I pause? I'm not sure I can pause it. I think it just gives away 6 points. So I don't like that from Kuno. There were other places a brown can go. It wasn't like he was stuck for browns. There were 3 blacks to come. So what Andres is looking for is ideal places for blacks. This is a really good place for black. It gets him 5, which means it can't go there, which means of the remaining 5 spots, 3 have to be black. So this spot gets you 3. Either of these will get you 3 from there. This spot gets you 3, and that's safe. So that's the only safe spot for a black currently. So what you might do is move this green across one. And the advantage of moving the green across one, it means that there are no safe spaces for blacks. It means every black is going to score at least 3. So I quite like the way Andres is placed now. I think, personally, I would move this green across one. And then you're looking for the 3 remaining blacks, all scoring 3 points each. At least 3. So this is 3. One of these 2 is 3. This is 3. If you move this out of the way, they can't place a black here or here. So I think by moving this across, you don't change your score. You lose this 3 points, but then you gain the 3 here. and then you'll get points for blacks. The best Kuno can do is to place a black here, and a black here, and a black here, which is 8, which is a score of 87. So I think, although I haven't analysed it as much as Andres has, I think I like a green to this spot. So that does gain Andres points, but now there's a safe space for black here. Yeah, so basically they moved the brown up. The brown is currently scoring 3 in this row. You move it up, it scores 3 here, but an additional 2 here. I don't like that. I think my method would score at least 87 plus whatever you get for the other colours that have come out. So I was not a fan of that move. So there's a green, 3 blacks, a blue, and a red. Now the red's pretty safe, to be honest. There's quite a few spaces for the red to go safely, so either of these spaces. There's one of the blacks, so you've given a space for black now. So although I'm just getting 2 points for this brown move, my blacks would have all scored 3. So we'll see. Maybe he spent, like, I skipped the move. He spent about 2 minutes on that move, so it could just be he didn't see this. But I'm just okay. So this, yeah, that's nice. It gains you 2 points, and then a black in either of these spaces. It also means that a red is not safe here now. So a red will probably have to go in this bottom corner here. There are 2 blacks, a red, and a blue. Yeah, so I imagine it's going to go something like, yeah, so you move this across. Yeah, and now a blue is safe here. A red is safe here. Yeah. I think this is still a good move. I think realistically, this green to here is still a good move. It basically means you're guaranteed to score points off your last black. I don't think it can hurt, can it? There's a black, a red, and a green. Yeah, I don't think it can hurt. I think green to here can't hurt. Right, so that loses you a point. Yeah, I don't like that. I think green to here was better, wasn't it? They're going to put a red down here. They move the black up. You're going to put a green here and a red here. Yeah, because the way I'd have done it, I think it would have been very similar, but these two would be reversed, which would be another 2 points. At still, 90 from where they were at one point in the game, 90 is pretty good. 92, apologies. So we're swapping over to watch Andres defend the lead of 92. It's looking good. Of the games we've seen, 92 is the highest score we've seen today, and 92 is regarded as an excellent score. So does Andres get the win? Does Andres get the big enough win to affect the Pentamind standings? Remember, they need a top 3 finish in Entropy to affect the Pentamind standings. And 92, I think any of the top players would feel comfortable defending at 92. What I mean by that is that when you go first as order and get a high score, you feel comfortable defending it. I think the general principle is, although there's no tactical advantage in terms of the gameplay, I think the general principle is that most people prefer to play order second because they know what score to beat. If they have to beat a high score, they take more risks. I imagine they move the blue down, yeah. And then at some point they've got like a free split of this blue, so they can move this blue to here. So I think you could preempt that by placing a piece here. Okay. So I think you split the blues. See what happens. Okay. See, what I would do is I would split the blues, and then if they block here, you can just move the brown down. Then they have to block here, or you get 8 points. So yeah, that's not a possibility now. So I'm not sure I like that. Although, bear in mind these players are better than me. So we'll have a look at we see. We can see Andres has been slightly unlucky here because what you don't want to do is draw a lot of one colour at the start. Yeah, so at some point I think they'll split the blue to threaten the brown to the other side. So they can split the blue either way as well. So you could pre-block this. Yeah, so they've pre-blocked the split. So you could yellow to here maybe. Yeah, okay, threatening yellow up. So that's the best place to block it. And what I mean by that, so basically you could have blocked any of these spots, but by blocking that one, you can't move it left because this blue's in the way. And remember, you want to be moving it to the edge if you can, so they could split these blacks. Okay, decided not to. And then they could just, they've given the option now of white across. If they split the blacks, then it's a very easy block to move the yellow up, so they probably have just declined against it. They don't want to give the opportunity to. Yeah, so putting the green there, generally not something I'd do. Maybe there's no good place for green. Yeah, so now I don't agree with that move either. I would generally put the green in an awkward position. So I would put the green maybe somewhere like here or here next to this blue. They move the green up, so Andres has put the red there to stop the split of the blue. The split of the blue is a pretty good move. So they're threatening this now. Anything but a red or a blue will block it. So what have they drawn? Yeah, so they could just move the brown. So they could just move the brown to the left here and threaten it again. I think that's sensible. Yeah. So Andres could have put the brown here straight away. Okay. So you've got a couple of choices now. You could split the brown just to get a point. Yeah, they're just tidying things up. So because Andres has made at least two, if not no, Andres has made 3 blocks on the edge. That's 3 moves where Kuno doesn't have to move something to the edge. However, if this was the first game and Kuno was playing order first, that would be fine. But because Kuno has to beat 92, I believe Andres is just trying to defend his 92. So I'm not sure. Oh, I missed that. I'm just going to go back. So yeah, they're threatening black to this spot. So Andres could block it by placing the red here. So I missed that. Yeah, basically they're trying to get a column. I think. Yeah, if they place the red here, which is I think what they did. Yeah, I think they're just trying to block this column. They could have put the red here, but then they move black to the edge, and then they've got all this free space. So they're just giving 5 points away. Sorry, 8 points away to try and start blocking things. It doesn't block it too much because this red is flexible. Anything can go in the middle there. So this red can, in theory, come to this edge. I think at some point maybe Kuno plays red to G5. No, they're just tidying things up. So they move the blue out of the way to threaten the brown to the edge. They could now move the red to the edge. Or they could move white to the corner. I don't like white's gone. I prefer red to the edge here. We'll see what happens. Alright, so they're threatening brown to this spot. It's quite easy to block unless you draw brown, though. And because there's a piece here and here, you can block by placing one there. So you don't need to go on the edge. Yeah, that's unlucky from Andres. Kuno drew brown. And the way Andres has placed this, they've got to be very careful because, yeah, that's sensible. They have to be very careful because just moving the yellow down or something threatens brown across. And this, a fourth brown here, would get you another 9 points. And to get one piece to move for 9 points is pretty high. 8's about the highest you're accepted to do. So one of these 8 pointers, one of the 5 in a rows. Yeah, so they're threatening yellow to top. Yeah, and white down. Nice little threat. Kuno's actually looking better than he was a few moves ago. But remember, he has to beat 92, and we can see from all the games we've got so far, 92 is no mean feat. I think red to this edge seems sensible. Oh yeah, so Andres has blocked that. So you could just move the yellow down. What you'd want, yeah, and then the red to the edge doesn't make as good sense. What I mean by that is if this yellow wasn't here, red to the edge means you can either get yellow to top and free some space, or red to the edge again, just for 2 points. Again, you're clearing up like a column through this middle. Sorry, a row through this middle of the column. I think Andres has been a bit unlucky in drawing 5 of one colour and 4 of another. Yeah, although the blues aren't actually scoring too much. Yeah, so they've done the reds there now. So this is they're threatening yellow to this spot and red to this spot. Now obviously yellow to this spot is 6. Yeah, and Andres has been unlucky. I think that's twice now that Andres has drawn the colour that Kuno was threatening the most points with. Which is a bit unlucky, to be honest. And there were only 3 yellows left in the bag, so the odds weren't great. And sometimes when you threaten things, there are 2 or 3 colours that you can't be blocked with. But in that case, it was only the one. It was just yellow that would have meant Andres can't block that. That's 6 points, and I think the same happened with the browns over here. The brown that went in at the top here for another 5 points. So that's 11 points that Andres hasn't been able to block, and that's coming up to half of Kuno's score. But you've just got to remember in this game, if you do play it, it's an excellent game. You should play it. It's great. It's the only game that's been at the Mind Spots Olympiad every year. So you want to join a historic list of people by playing this game at some point in your life. But in this game, you can't block everything. It's just not possible. I think moving this to the right here is pretty good. Yeah, that's the other option. Yeah, so I think Kuno's in a decent place manoeuvrability-wise. I love that word. Their manoeuvrability is pretty good across the board. They've also got the blue to here, but they're not going to do that because that gives Andres a pocket. So you could just move red up. Yeah. So this is So that was threatening yellow to this spot, which would have been another 6. So they can now just so they're going to do that again. They're going to threaten the same thing again. Yellow to here. They can't block it. Yeah. So now they go red to the bottom. Yeah. A good move by Kuno because this yellow can either go here or here, so that this yellow can score 3 points regardless. And it just gives Kuno a chance to tidy some things up. Yeah, they're doing that to stop this blue coming out, I guess, at some point in the future. I mean, the other possibilities for moving this green is you can, again, just try and get this horizontal line you've got. So you could put the green here, which is pretty safe. So this is another threat. Again, yellow to here. There's no point moving this yellow while you can still threaten this spot. And if this gets blocked again, remember, you can't really block it with a yellow or a black. Although black only scores 4, the yellow will score 6. So if you do have a black, maybe you have to bite the bullet. But the other possibilities, if you draw a black, you can potentially put the black somewhere else. And yeah, so that's pretty bad. Green's pretty bad. That scores 5. You can potentially stop the brown coming down now because by blocking with the green, they have to spend their turn moving it. And in theory, you can. Yeah, red's pretty. Is that the last red? Yeah, so you've drawn all the reds, and it's only just past the halfway point in the game. So that's also pretty unlucky. So I think Andres has been. I think this threat's not been as bad as the other two. So this one scored 6, and this one scored 5. That was just unlucky from Andres' point of view. They were the only colours that would be bad for Andres to draw out the bag. So I guess you move brown down. You've got this, yeah. Oh, and Andres drew a blue, so they couldn't block that either. Oh, wow. Kuno is getting pretty... I will say he has to play risky. He has to try for these high-scoring things because he's got to try and beat 92. So I'm not saying Kuno's playing bad. Kuno's playing to be lucky and getting it. But I was saying the yellow to this one, this threat, which Kuno threatened 2 or 3 times, that was fine because there was 3 colours that Andres can draw that Kuno could benefit from. I imagine at some point you bring the bound down to the bottom. And apologies if I'm talking too fast. I'm reacting to the speed in these players are playing this game. So, right, all the reds are gone. There's only 1 brown left, which means there's going to be a lot of some of the other colours. There's 4 whites, which is the most prevalent colour to come. Yeah, so Andres is just stopping the brown coming down. So in theory, you could move the blue up. Yeah, that's quite nice. So now at some point you can threaten. You probably don't want to do that because to threaten a yellow to this spot, you have to move this yellow out of the way. So that's not great. There's 3 greens to come though. So if you can imagine, you can see how good greens will be in this gap. Yes, there goes one of the greens. Green's safe there, and you stop the blue coming up to join this blue here. I wonder if you just move this blue across to here. Yeah, for some points. So if we have a quick check of the scores, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 twos is 26, so Kuno is looking to score about 79. So it looks like the win that Andres needs currently. Can Kuno do anything to change it? I think they've already been fairly lucky to score what they've scored so far, but the expectation of 2 points per remaining space seems a sensible one so far, and it puts Kuno on a score of just under 80, so we will see what they can do from here. What they'd really like to do is threaten a green to this point, but because they haven't got an easy threat to come, yeah, that's just 3 points. I think Andres is just pre-blocking that so that they wouldn't threaten a yellow to here. But because they haven't got an easy way to get a green to threaten this one, I don't think that's ever going to happen. Andres has two greens left to come. This is... that's not safe for green, is it? Yeah, green can go in this spot, and then the other green will score 2 or 3 points. But from Andres' point of view, there are 4 whites to come, which is not great. 4 whites, 2 greens, a yellow, 2 blacks, and a brown, and a blue. Yeah, so that gains you an extra point. The colour that was good for you to get there was green, but Andres is never going to put a green there, and because your flexibility is pretty bad in this corner, you were never going to be able to threaten that. So you've just extended your lead, and again, you've now got a couple of columns. You can see at the end of the game, compared to the end of Andres' game, Kuno's got 2 columns here. So the potential to score higher when you've got flexibility at the end of the game is there. And I think also another bit of luck is to have your opponent needing a lot of one colour left to come out the bag. So this is the last blue. That's just gone in a safe space. And Kuno's going to be looking to potentially, I know it looks bad, I wonder if you can move this blue down one. It loses you a point, but it takes away this free spot. It basically means this is for example, this is a safe space for like a black or a green or some of the other colours that have yet to come out. Not so much for a black actually, because this one goes across one. But okay, so I was thinking of doing this. I'm not sure whether it's the correct thing to do, but basically this scores 5 now, as opposed to the 4 it scored. So Kuno has broken up his own connectivity by losing a point. But he's threatening. Oh, I think maybe he's playing for his luck. He's threatening this. I didn't see this. So basically, moving to here will score 5. So it hasn't actually cost you anything. You've lost 4 points to gain 5, so it gets you 1 point, but your flexibility is 4. However, green to this spot gets you another 8. It's currently scoring 6. If you put a green there, it will score 14. Oh wow! I think Andres has missed this. He should have put a black in that gap to stop that. So the game is back on. Not only did Andres not block that, but look at the shape he's got. The fact that Kuno can move the green out of the way again means he's still got all his flexibility. So black here gains, you lose a point from this column, but gain 3 here, so that gains you 2 points. Right, that is one of the penultimate greens. Yeah, I don't think he's going to catch up. It's 29 points in it, so with 1, 2... It's 30 points in it now, but this is, I mean, that looks like a weird move, but basically now there's not many safe places for greens. So you can move this green here if you need to. This is quite nice actually. This green here, actually apologies, incorrect. I'm going to leave that. This green here means you probably should be able to get a white into this gap at some point. Because there are 3 whites to come out of 6, so half the time you'll get a white. Alright, so Kuno is making a last-ditch attempt to score some points. A black to this spot gains Kuno another 8. Apologies, you lose these 3 to gain 8. So it's a gain of 5, but yeah, like you said, there's only 6 tiles left. Oh, Andres couldn't block it. So do you actually place it here now? I wonder. There's still 3 whites to come. Oh, and there's a white here. Look at this. Look at this. There's a white here, which you'll be guaranteed to get, which gets you 4. And there's 3 whites to come. I'm not sure you can you guarantee a white there? I don't think you can guarantee it, but it's quite likely you'll get a white in this space as well, which will be another 6 plus 4 is 10. That's 78. Oh, so green down actually increases your score. So wherever they draw, they have to put it here. And if it's a white, yeah. So green down, I think, increases your score. apologies, green across is the same thing. In fact, it's even better. Green across is even better because then this green stays here for this one. White here. Still 2 whites to come. It's 81 to 92. Oh my god. You're guaranteed a white here, so that's another 4. So it's going to be 85 to 92. You're guaranteed another white for 3. Yeah, you don't want to put the brown in this one because it goes here. So there's 2 whites to come. So white here and white here gets you 2 plus 3 plus 4 is 9. That gets you to 90. What's the last colour? What's the last colour? It is yellow. Is there any way to get another 3 points from somewhere? So you've got to be careful. So basically, if you can get a yellow in this spot, you win. I think. So if you can move the white out. Yeah, so you've got to be careful. So a yellow in this spot would win you the game. So you've got to stop that. So basically, if Kuno's move is to... So I'm just mid... Yeah, you can't really put a white there. Yeah, maybe that's fine. A white to here. I think if you then draw a white, you have to put it in the same spot. Yeah, okay, so they've drawn a yellow. Oh, that gets you 3. I think he's won. I think he wins by a point. Oh, wow. What an excellent, excellent move. I think it actually came down to the point where Kuno got the green space here. Kuno moves the green from the... He had 3 greens here. If we just go back, let's go back a few turns. I think it was this turn here. So blue goes in the gap. That's a safe place for blue. Remember, Orange is just trying to reduce his scores. Ignore the scores at the moment. They don't decrease. It was this move here where Kuno gained a point and Andres didn't block this space. So I think that's the mistake that made, because I think I think Andres drew a black tile and they put it down the bottom here. I think putting a black here not only stops the green to the top, it also cuts off the freedom that Kuno then had. So what happened was, black went in the bottom. Kuno moved here to get another 8 points on the top. So basically, I say it gained another 8. They already had 5 here. They lost 5 here for the palindrome to gain the 8. But they gained the flexibility. Look at all this flexibility that they have now. That they were able to keep to the end of the game with 4 whites to come. They were able to keep to the end of the game. They were able to pair this black up. I think, again, potentially Andres' next move should have been here to stop this black going across. They drew a white. Maybe not. But maybe even so. Because now, because there was still 4 whites to come, Kuno was able to force a white into this spot. And there's still 2 greens to come as well. So Kuno was able to... negate, and I believe Kuno was able to get a green in this spot as well. So yeah, so they threatened this. This is a weird move as well. Andres drew a black. So yeah, I guess they drew a black. So they placed it here. So basically, another interesting move. So this is pretty annoying. Basically, what Kuno's threatened to do is to go here for another lots of points. This is currently 6. Moving that to there will be 14. So this will be another 8 points. Losing 3, gaining 8. So a swing of 5 points. And Andres drew a black, which is kind of the one colour they can't block this move with. And then Andres' choice to put the black here. Well, where do you put the black? You can't realistically put it down here, can you? Because that will get you more. So you could put it up the top here. If you put it here, then when they move this black across, it gets them 5. So what Andres did is this. They put the black in this spot, which meant that Kuno didn't need to move this over, and then they kept the flexibility. So I wonder whether it would have been better for Andres to put this black one up here. Okay, you're going to give them points wherever you put it, but if you put it up here, you kind of cut off the board into 2. As it was, Kuno was then able to... I think move the white across, to threaten the green to here, which is loads of points. Andres decided not to block it again. I wonder if Andres is better to block that. I'm analysing the play quite a lot, but it was so interesting because at one point, with about 7 or 8 tiles to go, Andres had a 30-point lead and ended up losing by a point. So really, really interesting game. Look for the whole game that Andres was going to get the big win he needed, and I'm afraid he didn't. So we're going to take that. We're going to look at the final standings. We're on the wrong page there. The final standings here. These are the final standings. So basically, throughout the event, we've been looking at the top 14 players as they finished, as they move around through the event. So David Jameson is, you can see his very last match against James Heppell, who we saw beat Paco. They were fighting for the gold medal effectively, given David Jameson won by 6 points, 6 victory points over Paco to win his 6th World Championship of Entropy. He's won the last 5 in a row, so congratulations to David. I did have a session with David the week before this event just to give me some tips, so thank you very much, David. I managed to came 11th myself on my very first event, so out of 48, I'm pretty happy with that. Paul Kolk, slightly unlucky they were doing victory points this year because Paul Kolk went undefeated. However, 2 of his victories were ever so slightly narrow. He beat David Jameson by 1 point, beat James Heppell by 1 point. However, David Jameson beat James Heppell by quite a lot, by a lot more than 1 point. So, although they played the same people, David Jameson did better. So that's how he's come across, even though he lost a game, how his victory points have kind of pushed him to that win. We see Martin Hamer, I believe it's Merryman he was playing under the moniker of, losing heavily twice in rounds 3 and 4 to some of the top players. He lost heavily to Andres and then lost heavily again to, I believe it was, I can't remember who that was, to David Pearce. So lost heavily, but had 3 stonking wins to finish with to sneak the bronze medal away from Paco. If Paco had won his last match 20-0, he'd have taken it, but he didn't, sadly. And Paco had to be settled for 4th. We can see Kuna there, winning the Battle of the Estonians in 5th place. David Pearce, all-time leading medal winner, had 2 heavy losses but 5 big wins to get him into 6th place. Andres Kuusk in 7th place, failing to get the score he needed to in Pentamind. And in 8th place, James Heppell, we saw him there, lost the gold medal match quite heavily to David Jameson to sadly finish outside the medals once more. That has been the Entropy review from the event that happened last Sunday. I'm filming this on Monday morning, so by the time you watch it, I think 2 weeks will have passed from the event. I think you'll be watching this on Friday, so hopefully everything's going well for you, and hopefully with a few days left you've got time to join in some of the last events for the Mind Spots Olympiad this year. Throughout the month of August we've been playing online. My name's been Steve Rain. Thank you for watching. If you've got any comments, please message them on the YouTube chat or something. I'll get back to them. And please watch more of the streams as they're coming along and join in some of the games yourself. That's why we play games, to have fun. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye bye.